Canis lupus is the Latin term used to identify species of wolves and their descendants, domesticated dogs, which are called Canis lupus familiaris. The term dog itself came from the Old English term dogcha, meaning quadruped of the genus Canis. Man's bond with canine is found to have roots all the way to 12,000 BCE. A temple in Ain Malaha, modern-day Inan, Israel, contains a Natufian grave which holds the bones of an old woman buried with a puppy, her hand resting on the animal's shoulder.
Wolves were originally seen as scavengers at human camps. Over time, they became useful to humans as warning signals for approaching animals and eventually as hunters. There are several theories on how humans domesticated wolves, such as socially bonding with pups so they would see people as members of their pack, or the taming of adult wolves. But how did we go from wolves to dogs in all their variations of size, shape, and color? In the wild, species undergo natural selection, a process in which certain traits are passed as those who survive breed. However, dogs were created through artificial selection. In artificial selection, human breeders pick the dog's mates depending on characteristics such as fur type, height, personality, etc. At the beginning of domestication, the tamest wolves were bred to create the tamest offspring, and desirable traits were strengthened over generations. Over thousands of years, this gave us a wide variation of breeds as humans created different kinds of dogs.
Domestication also gave rise to artistic depictions of the bond between man and dog. One of the earliest cave paintings found was in northwest Saudi Arabia, estimated to date back to 9000 or 8000 BC. In the picture, the dog seemed to be aiding humans in hunting. The details, like the spots and the shoulder stripes, mark the dogs as individual. The high level of detail, especially for the time, is indicative of emotional attachments to dogs.
Many cultures and religions viewed dogs as spiritual guides that aided in protection, alertness, and bravery. They also believed that dogs had souls and would reunite with their masters in the afterlife. This is best shown in the Egyptian city of Sinopolis, which means dog. They worshipped the dog star Sirius because its position in the sky predicted the flooding of the Nile and marked the new year. It was a law for the people of the city to care for all dogs diligently. Dogs were believed to have psychic vision, meaning they could see ghosts and imperceptible dangers. The Greeks saw dogs as brave, powerful, and vigilant. Cerberus, the guardian of the underworld, acted as a guide and an obedient intermediary for human souls. Argus, the faithful dog of the Greek hero Odysseus, waited 19 years for his master to return from war. Odysseus returned home disguised as a beggar. Only his dog recognized him. Thin and flea-ridden, Argos raised his head, wagged his tail for the first time in years, and then died, having fulfilled his mission of being reunited with his master.
The transition of man's best friend as working dogs to status symbols began in the Middle Ages. It was female nobility that began the trend of lapdogs, since their male counterparts preferred more useful animals, such as hawks or falcons for hunting, which was very important to the aristocracy as a symbol of power and status. The church actually disapproved of pet keeping, thinking it was part of pagan worship. It wasn't until the 18th century when pet keeping was accepted among the general public, seen as man's domination and control over nature.
During the Renaissance, the humanist movement led to secular and individual expression in the arts, so people would show their personal fondness for man's best friend through painting and carving their likeness. Renaissance paintings of nobility often included lapdogs. Portraits of noble women often included dogs to represent domesticity and marital fidelity. The Renaissance also led to artistic anthropomorphism, attributing human characteristics to animals with the same feelings and thought patterns as humans. In this painting, the dog's downturned heads and hanging tails show the human feeling of dejection and disappointment.
In a way, dogs do experience human emotion. In an experiment, both dogs and humans were given fMRIs and listened to the same auditory stimuli, which included human vocalization, dog vocalization, and non-vocal environmental sounds. The human vocalization ranged from highly negative to highly positive. It was found that 13% of a dog's brain responded strongly to human speech. So what does this mean? Dogs not only recognize human emotions, but they're also acutely responsive to it. Though their emotional range is limited, they are able to sense and respond to different emotions that their masters feel.
There are many stories of dogs being faithful and dependable. For example, in Japan, there was a true story about a dog named Hachiko and his owner, a professor. Each day, the puppy would wait for him to return from work at the train station. One day, the professor suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and suddenly died. The dog waited at the train station every day for over 9 years until he passed. finally reunited with his master. Another example of this is seen in A Dog's Purpose. Bailey is a golden retriever who belongs to a boy named Ethan. He stayed with him from his childhood to college years, closely bonded to his best friend. After he was put down, he was reincarnated several times, not knowing his purpose. He becomes Bear and eventually finds his way to Ethan's house, where he reunites with Ethan as an old man. Ethan decides to keep Bear when he finds him. When Ethan is ready to pass, he recognizes Bear as Bailey, which shows the loyal bond between them, and Bear sits with him as he dies. And here, Bailey realizes that seeing Ethan through the end was his true purpose after all.
Today, we still use dogs in activities similar, if not just the same, to what our ancestors did, but with the research gained from modern technology to prove it. Today, dogs are used as emotional support or therapy animals, just as dogs were placed in ancient Greek temples for their perceived ability to cure illness. Many large dogs, such as Tibetan Mastiffs, are kept as guard dogs, just like how long ago monks used to keep them as sentries for their monasteries.
Our companions often become muses for artistic expression, and in recent decades we portray a relationship with these pets through movies such as Isle of Dogs, Homeward Bound, An Incredible Journey, Alpha, and television classics such as Lassie and The Adventures of Rin Tin Tin. And who could forget the legendary 101 Dalmatians? These films and TV shows have captured our collective hearts. And, according to the AKC, movies led to a dog movie star effect, increasing the popularity of certain breeds.
Although breeding of desired traits has its benefits in producing the ideal dog, it also has its problems. Many breeders will inbreed their dogs because they often have similar personality traits, which leads to birth defects affecting the whole breed. For example, many larger breeds, like German Shepherds, are prone to hip dysplasia. Dalmatians are prone to bladder stones, and Bulldogs have respiratory issues due to their short snout and face wrinkles. Therefore, though artificial selection can be a good way to find the ideal pet, it can also endanger the breed as a whole.
Unfortunately, there are quite a few breeds that are considered dangerous, especially pit bulls. In fact, 43 out of 50 states in the United States of America consider pit bulls to be dangerous and have legislation against them. For example, in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, no person may own, keep, exercise control over, maintain, harbor, transport, or sell within the city any pit bull while in violation of any of the provisions. Alabama prohibits and regulates the owning or keeping of dangerous animals, including pit bulls.
Because of the social and legislative demonization of pit bulls, many people fear the breed. However, there are animal rights activists trying to reverse this attitude. According to Brain Rules by John Medina, vision trumps all other senses. So, artists like photographer Sophie Gaman take advantage of the power of the art. She takes photographs of pit bulls, usually portrayed as fierce fighting dogs, with flower crowns and pastel backgrounds to showcase their loving personalities and beauty. This has led to hundreds of unwanted dogs finding forever homes. Other artists use their medium to change our culture and our mindset as well.
Dogs are smart, loyal, funny, and dependable. For thousands of years, they've helped us hunt, protect our homes, and help us help others. Most importantly, they're man's best friend. They love us, and we certainly love them.
Here you go.